Hello all. Today we're here reacting to ReactOS. Wonder if that's enough of a reaction. Anyway, for those of you that don't know what ReactOS is, or haven't heard of it before, it's a open source attempt to reverse engineer Windows. So by that nature, I find it very interesting. Now, it is mostly Russian developers, but not exclusively. And it kind of goes through these hot and, if you follow the development of it long enough, it kind of goes through these hot and cold periods. This has been under active development for at least 20 years. Technically, development on this started all the way before Windows NT. And when Windows switched over to NT, it continued from there. And this is basically an attempt to build an open source clone of Windows 2000. It's been under active development for a long time. And because of that, it goes through these hot and cold periods where sometimes there's a lot of developers working on it very actively, and then sometimes development kind of slows down on it. Because this isn't really intended to be a commercial project, but rather an attempt to reverse engineer Windows in order to understand it better, what it is, it's still in alpha. It's more of a garage project than intended to be a working product, if you understand what I mean by that, like a hobby project. But it's still under active development, even though it's still in alpha, and things are still trucking along, even in 2024. So let's get into it. We can see here that we have a very early 2000s looking installer. You know, we'll survive, I think. So, all right, I'm going to read what it says to you here. It says, "Welcome to the ReactOS setup. This setup is the part of the setup that copies the ReactOS operating system to your computer and prepares the second part of the setup." Okay, yep. Press enter to install, press R to repair, press L to view licensing terms and conditions, and press F3 to quit. Okay, so we're going to press enter. ReactOS version status. ReactOS is in alpha stage, meaning that it is not a feature complete and is under heavy development. It is recommended to use it only for evaluation and testing purposes and not as your daily usage OS. Back up your data or test on a secondary computer if you attempt to run ReactOS on real hardware. Press enter to continue ReactOS setup. So, one of the things I'm quite curious about with this is what would the hardware support be like? Would it be able to run Windows drivers out of the box if I put it on a real hardware? Alright, so this is where I'm running it in a virtual machine, so I'm going to go ahead and accept here. We're going to go on partition space. That's kind of interesting. So it says here, setup created a new partition on hard disk 0, 19 gigabytes. Again, it's virtual machine. I wasn't going to try putting this one on real hardware because, like I said, I suspect the hardware support is not real good. But this is something a little interesting to me. Select a file system from the system below. And it lists right here, but better BTRFS, which is interesting for a Windows clone because that's kind of the avant-garde Linux file system. But you know what? I'm going to try it with BetterFS. So people want to say ButterFS, but I'm like 100% sure that's not the correct pronunciation. So format the partition. Setup will now format the partition. Press enter to continue. I'm going to go ReactOS. It's kind of interesting. It gives you almost like a little system monitor down there. Alright, so we're going to go install the bootloader. So the options here is set up for installing the bootloader. Install the bootloader on the hard disk. Install the bootloader on the hard disk VBR only. Install the bootloader on a flop. Gives you an option to install the bootloader on a floppy disk. Pretty old. We're going to go MBR and VBR. Basic components of ReactOS have installed successfully. Press enter to reboot your computer. Alright, now it should boot into ReactOS. Fortunately, for a first impression for ReactOS, this is kind of where I have to end it. What happened was when I booted it a moment ago after the install, it hung on the bootloader and it would not boot up. So I reinstalled it, this time using a FAT file system, and this time it installed, booted up, and now it's booted right into this blue screen. Now, again, this is still an alpha, so I am going to investigate this more, but initially looking into this is that it looks like this is part of just a known issue. So for today, I'm going to leave this issue here, and I'm going to do a part 2 if I can fix this issue and get things going a little bit better, because I'm very, very intrigued by this project, but this is not... I would say this is not a great look, but again, like I said earlier, this is intended to be more of a hobby project, and it is an alpha, so this kind of thing happens. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and pray every day.